Hello and welcome back to the world of Spirit and Shield. As always, my name is John and I will continue to be your guide on this journey. For those of you joining us for the first time, Spirit and Shield is a brand new fantasy world that we are exploring through short stories. So, last week we had our second short story called The Harvest. If you did not see it or read it, go back. I'll put put a little tag up here so you can just click on that and watch it right now. Got some very good responses to it, so I think you'll enjoy it as well. Go ahead and watch that first and then come back to this video. This video will be commentary on The Harvest. So a lot of you had questions, you had comments. In this video, we will be addressing those and digging a little bit deeper into the world of The Harvest. So to start off, I want to thank everyone out there for all of your support. Again, got a lot of responses to this story, and it's been amazing. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's really what's going to make the difference here. But yeah, just thank you so much. Let's go ahead and dive into those questions and those comments. So one of the things that you guys wanted to know more about were the Hutani and the Baringai. Okay, again, these guys are mortal enemies going back to the beginning of when I first started this project, when I first started creating this fantasy world. Never thought much about why they hate each other so much, other than some long-standing feud, and they just don't get along. But so that has actually been fairly consistent throughout the making of this world. There will be pictures coming out soon of the Hutani and the Baringai. One thing you guys were asking for were like more detailed physical descriptions of both of them. So that will be coming out in the form of some pictures. So let me know what you think. They are still being tweaked, and we'll see. They've evolved a bit over time already. And again, in the future, I'll show you some of the first pictures, the first drawings of these two creatures. And on that note, the Hutani and Baringai are creatures. They are not humans. They're not a different type of humans like we might think of, like elves and dwarves and gnomes and such. They're essentially people, just different sizes and shapes. These guys are animals, and that will kind of guide a lot of their behavior and a lot of their motivation throughout this world. So even though they are animals, they are creatures, they are still very intelligent, somewhere along the lines of a human being. So they still have problem-solving, critical thinking skills, and are treated as more or less equals throughout this world. The Baringai and Hutani are actually very similar, or at least they used to be. Even though the conflict between the Baringai and the Hutani existed like far back in the creation of this fantasy world, the Zelenwood and the Allenwood did not exist at all, and the conflict between them, of course, didn't exist either. For me, that was actually something very interesting. The idea for the conflict between them actually came up as I was writing this story, and that's kind of the whole point of this project, is to explore these worlds through these stories. And it was one of those moments where like you have an idea and you think it's absolutely crazy, will never work in 1,000 years, and you start doing it and it actually starts working. Like as I was writing, I could kind of see this battle going on between the trees, and it was just like really cool. And knowing that you guys were on that journey with me and seeing the same things almost at the same time it was just amazing. And the conflict between the Zelenwood and the Allenwood, that seemed to be another thing that you guys kind of latched onto, that you enjoyed. So we will be seeing a lot more of that in the future, and I'm very curious as well to see what exactly happens, the origins between this conflict. I have some ideas about. Yeah, I guess we'll find out together, and that's the whole idea of this project. And again, thank you guys for joining me on it. This is really cool. The inspiration behind the war between the Zelenwood and the Allenwood actually comes from a place similar to this. My wife loves to go hiking. She loves being outdoors. So we've done a lot of hiking since we've been married. And while you're walking through the woods, and this is Northeast Ohio, there are trees everywhere. And you know, just like looking up, you can see the trees essentially in a snapshot of war. They're trying to outgrow each other, they're trying to reach the sun to get the nutrients. And if they don't, and if the tree next to them grows faster, grows bigger, more leaves, they're essentially going to die because they won't be able to get the nutrients that they need to survive. So the war between the Allenwood and the Zellenwood is actually a very real thing that is happening every day, though not in the same way. Of course, in fantasy worlds, we kind of take something little and we explode it and make it enormous. So in the world, we have a full-scale war between two forests, not just trees, that are geographically separated. The war between the Zellenwood and the Allenwood is also an exploration of the debate of nature versus nurture. So we have essentially two nuts, two seeds that fall from a single tree. One rolls into like good soil, like nice black rich soil, and the other rolls into like less favorable terrain, whatever that is. And so of course we have the Zellenwood in the rich soil. It's able to grow nice, big, and strong, and full, and pure. And on the other side we have the Allenwood that isn't given that chance. So it has to kind of scrape its living out of whatever's around it. It has to kind of fight for its survival a bit more than the Zellenwood did. And as a result, it's not as pure, it's not as clean, it's not as nice. And we're going to see that in future stories as well. We already got a glimpse with the Baringai. It mentions that they're twisted bodies and that they're corrupted. And again, that's a theme that we're going to keep going back to. And the big thing I want to explore with this is, again, that nature versus nurture debate. Is it one's environment that determines who they are and essentially their destiny? Or is it their inner nature? Is it, a purity of soul or, whatever? So again, like a long-standing debate that's been going on for like decades. Personally, I think it's probably a mix of the two things. Things are hardly ever like black and white. They're just a billion shades of gray, and not as simple as they seem. And on that same note, we have the Hutani and the Baringai, which essentially personify the struggle, both the war between the Zellenwood and the Allenwood, and the struggle between the debate of nature versus nurture. So honestly, I don't know exactly where that's going to go, but we'll see. We'll find out together. So the inspiration behind the harvest largely comes from my own personal experiences as a hunter. From the beginning, I knew that I wanted this to be a hunting story. In the harvest, we're exploring that idea of life and death from the perspective of nature. Again, I'm surrounded by nature right now. There are trees growing, like brand new trees growing up, old trees dying and falling, dead trees becoming life for something else. And like to me, that's what nature is. It's both life and death. It's birth and destruction. It's chaos and order. So that's how it's viewed largely through this story and through the eyes of the Hutani, who are very much in line with nature, with the natural order of things. So for them, death, even though it is sad, like we see Derek does grieve for his brother and his brother's family, at the same time, like he understands that it is natural. Even the fact that his brother is eaten by this, saber lynx, that is still a part of life. It's a part of their life. For us, it would be a little bit more shocking. But yeah, and that's something that I want to continue to explore through these stories. It's, that age-old question of what happens when you die, and what is death's place in the universe. I don't have the answers, and I think it's interesting to explore though, because different cultures view it in different ways. So we will be exploring some different ways of viewing life and death, different ways of dealing with it, and And again, like I think it's interesting because no one's ever gone there and come back and told us about it. So again, the harvest is largely based on my own experiences as a hunter. I've never been hunted, which I guess is a good thing. Ohio, there aren't that many things that hunt you. We do have like bears and coyotes here and some bobcats. My dad was actually hunted a little bit by a coyote, but it was a mistake. The coyote thought he was a turkey. Stuff happens. But yeah, so hunting, like as serious as it is, because it is this life and death struggle, if not for the hunter, for the hunted. And I think to be a good hunter, you need to understand that, and you need to take it seriously. It is a serious thing, and some people look at it as like this horrible thing that hunters go into the woods and like kill animals. I view it as taking part in nature, and not just fluffy rabbits and rainbows and bright blue skies and clouds, but you're taking part in all of nature. Like you're getting a more complete experience. And instead of just walking through the woods and observing, you are an active part in that life and death cycle. And it really changes you, and it changes your perspective on actually a lot of things. But for me, like it's been very spiritual and very traditional. I come from a hunting family, so there's a lot of depth to it that it's hard to understand unless you do it. And that being said, there are people who do it the wrong way, people who poach, who overhunt, or who have the attitude actually of the Baringai, where it's just killing, and they don't value the lives that they're taking. And that being said, as serious as hunting is, funny things do happen while you're hunting. That's actually where the scene with the squirrel, after Dad climbs down from the tree after his first night, and the squirrel pops out, and he thinks it's of course the sapoli coming to eat him. Something similar happened to me, except I thought the squirrel was a deer, and then later I thought that the deer was still the squirrel, and I missed out on some venison on that one. But yeah, so funny things do happen to you. So that scene actually came from personal experience. Anyone who's been hunting knows that when nature calls and you're least prepared, that's when something happens. So this scene with Derek and the rabbit, towards I guess like the middle, where he shoots the rabbit to eat it for breakfast. That again is based off of my personal experiences hunting, and the fact that sometimes when you kill an animal, you can't tell exactly the line between life and death. And again, in my own experiences, that struck me as something memorable, something significant, and I wanted to preserve that in this story. So Derek experiences the same thing, that feeling that it's alive, and then at some point it is dead, but in between you're not quite sure. And I think it works well with this story as well, because it goes back to that theme of life and death, and life and death being more similar than we typically view them in modern times. But yeah, so I hope you guys found that interesting as well. I could talk about this for hours. Like I feel like there is so much to talk about in this story, and we haven't even really touched on the spirit world at all. But if you have any more questions and comments, please continue to send them either down below or on social media. Again, the links to my social media accounts are in the comments down below. If you'd like to find out more about the Zellenwood and the Allenwood and the world of the harvest, go and check out my Patreon page. Most of the stuff on there is free for everyone. So go and check it out, and yeah, hope you enjoy it. There are some pictures, some bestiary entries, and and some articles and stuff as well. So I hope you enjoy it, and we will definitely be returning to the Zellenwood in the future. You guys showed a lot of interest in it, and there are a lot of positive responses to this story. So we will return. We're going to explore some other places first, but we will circle back around. So keep up with those questions, those comments, and Again, thank you for all of your support. Please continue to share this journey with others, with your friends, with your family. That way you can talk with them about these stories as well. And I feel like there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. If you would like to support me in like a more material way, there is always my Patreon page. Again, link is down at the bottom. So go ahead and check that out. Again, if you don't want to be a patron, that is perfectly fine. Go check out the page anyway. There's tons of extra content. So again, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It has been amazing, and I honestly can't even believe the amount of responses to the first two videos. We will have another story coming up next week, and again, we'll be exploring a different part of this fantasy world. One of my favorite parts, so I hope you enjoy it as well. And until then, thank you again, and take care.